maybe I'll put my mask on to sing and take it off to talk.
Okay, and then I'll do the opposite. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We are so glad to be with you. I am joined by my colleague, Rabbi Olshein, this evening, and we have Ricky here. Oh. My monitor is talking to me. And we have Ricky here on piano. I'll pan over for a second. And we have Alex in the back helping us with sound. And that is it tonight. And it was supposed to be Beatles Shabbat. So, why did we not do Beatles Shabbat? I still wore my gold jacket for you, but yeah. So, some have asked us, why did we cancel? So many of us heard that Governor Sisolak had asked us very strongly to consider canceling things and stay inside. And as the morally and socially responsible Jews that we are, we felt it necessary to protect all of you. So Beatles Shabbat will be back. Promise. I promise this. But we might have to wait a little while. So we hope we can do that. And also we give our kind wishes to the Levrant family, and they will reschedule David's bar mitzvah hopefully very soon as well, and hope that his grandparents are feeling good.
Because we want them to participate.
Yes, for sure.
We want that to happen. So, Cantor, what's coming up this week? We have some adult education.
All right, so we have, I'm going to have to take this, you're going to have to offer this class again because I want to take it and I haven't had a chance, but Kosher Sex with Rabbi Olshein, Tuesday, November 17th at 5:30. Mm-hmm. We'll see if Rabbi's feeling up to it. He has his class Midrashim that will surprise you at 5:30 on Wednesday. And then the next Tuesday, November 24th at 5:30, What's Jewish About Thanksgiving? There's actually a lot that's Jewish about Thanksgiving, but Rabbi Olshein is teaching that class. And I'll give you a hint, Sukkot. That's a hint.
Really?
And then
come and find out more about Sukkot and the gold.
Yeah. And then first week in December, we have lots of fun cooking experiences to have with you. So we have our child chef, Adina Polis, will be back on December 1st for a Hanukkah surprise dish that we hope you'll join us for that. It's at 6:30, I believe. And then 6 o'clock on Thursday, December 3rd. This is very exciting. So we were supposed to have Neshama Karlbach as our artist in residence last year for our pop-up Shabbat, but it got canceled with everything else. However, Neshama will be joining us virtually to teach a beautiful lesson for a challah bake that we'll be joining with Temple Sinai for. That is December 3rd at 6 p.m. The Challah Queens of Henderson and the Challah Queen of Summerlin are going to be teaching the recipe, and you'll have to register on our website. And there's more. Okay, religious school. So same thing, because of the governor's request from us, we are going to go virtual for the next 2 weeks for Hebrew school. That'll start at 11 a.m. and go till 12:30 p.m. Look on the website to get the links to the classes or the email that was sent today. And hopefully after Thanksgiving, we'll be back in person. And for everything else, go to the website. It's all there, lvnertamid.org. Okay, I'm ready for Shabbat. Are you?
I need Shabbat this week. It's been a really long week. And so I just want to say that maybe this is a great time for everybody to take a couple of deep breaths in and out, just to sort of push out the week that was and to bring in Shabbat. We're going to start this evening on page 142, if you have your prayer books, with Shalom Aleichem. We do hope you'll sing along.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitzchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Having welcomed the angels into our hearts and homes this Shabbat, we now turn to page 120, where we find the blessing for lighting Shabbat candles.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu lemitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
On page 124, in the middle of the page, we have this reading by Rabbi Sidney Greenberg. He taught us, "May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, and hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life." Continuing on page 138, we are going to be singing Lecha Dodi, welcoming in the Sabbath bride.
Verses 1, 2, and 9.
Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, pnei Shabbat, nekabla, nekabela. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, pnei Shabbat, nekabla, nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, hishmianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, Hashem ul tiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, pnei Shabbat, nekabla, nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nilcha, ki hi mekor ha'beracha, mirosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, pnei Shabbat, nekabla, nekabela.
We rise to greet the Shabbat bride.
Boi v'shalom, ateret ba'ala, gam b'simcha u'b'tzola. Toch emunei am segula, boi chala, boi chala. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, pnei Shabbat, nekabela, nekabela.
We remain standing for our call to worship, the Baruch Hu, found on page 146, this beautiful melody by Noah Aronson.
Ed Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Ya la 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 la. Ya 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 la la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la.
Our beautiful interpretive version of Ma'ariv Aravim is called God of Creation by Cantor Natalie Young.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro mariv aravim bechokma ufteach sharim. God of creation, who makes the evening fall from light into darkness with the setting of the sun. You unfold the heavens with brilliant moon and stars and wrap our souls with peace. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro mariv aravim bechokma potiach sharim. Baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Haravim.
On page 151, at the top of the page, as you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery.
Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai echad. Baruch Shem kevod malechuto leolam vaed.
If you are standing, we invite you to be seated as we continue chanting Ve'ahavta, page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
As we prepare ourselves for Micha Mocha, found on page 158, we find a beautiful teaching by Michael Walzer on page 157. You know, this world has been a little bit crazy the last week or two, since maybe a week ago Tuesday, we might say. And what I love about this reading is that it reminds us that in the worst of times, when we think we are running away from who we are, who we were as a people, if we join hands moving forward together, we can make it to the promised land. And so these are Michael Walzer's words, adapted from him. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Micha Mocha, page 158.
ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לחנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם.
I want you to pretend you've just experienced a miracle and sing along with us.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, עושה פלא. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, עושה פלא. ונאמר כיפת אדוני את יעקב וגלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Page 161. Our sacred lullaby. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomrenu lechaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Give us compassion and strength. Shield us for the sake of your name. Guide us with wisdom, compassion, and strength. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomrenu lechaim, lechaim, lechaim.
Continuing with our celebration of Shabbat, V'shamru V'nei Yisrael, my absolute favorite version. It reminds me of Vegas. I always think of this version as perhaps the most famous Las Vegas singer of all time, other than Cantor Hutchings, of course, singing this with a little bit of jazz, maybe Sammy Davis Jr. version of V'shamru.
Maybe we should have a Sammy Davis Jr. Shabbat?
Shabbat,
Oh.
right? Craig Talvin's V'shamru.
Yeah, actually, the Sisterhood ladies brought this back from Biennial, and it kind of stuck around here.
V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berit olam. Uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam.
The joy of Shabbat.
No, thank God we have these cardboard cutouts of all of you here, because otherwise it would feel really silly doing that V'shamru.
It makes a difference, everyone. It truly does. And so now we turn to the central part of our worship, the central prayer called Tefillah, or the Amidah, our standing prayer. We find on page 165 this beautiful introduction adapted from the great Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, who taught us that prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. We continue on page 164 and even numbered pages. If you'd like to rise, please do so.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל, אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
We continue in silent devotion through page 180, using the words on the right or the left side of the page, or the words within your heart. When you have completed your prayers, please be seated.
Our prayer for healing is found on page 371 in our prayer books. And if there is someone for whom you would like this community to say a prayer for healing, we invite you to place their names in the chat this evening so that we as a community can pray for their healing of body and mind and spirit. Our community this week prays for Amy Bennett DeFrank, Lauren Molaski, Irvin Zeed, Barbara Baum, Paul Schiffman, Alyssa Polis, Lane Olaf, and of course, Rabbi Axelrod.
Our streaming community thinks of Betty Todman, Nelson Avila, Jeff Wayne, Kim Davidson, Stuart Baker, Mindy Nanny, Ron Hildebrandt, Linda Smith, Barbara Rader, Deborah Friedman, Carol Emmerich. If you have any others that come up while we begin singing, I will take a pause between verses and check to make sure I didn't miss anyone.
Our prayer for healing is on page 371.
Mi sheberach avotenu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
Suzanne Denton Pratt, Donald Schwartz, Tracy Rosenbaum, George Barnett, Bob Shaffrin, Gloria Gallo, Teresa Bertelli Ream, Tracy Ann McClellan Rosenbaum.
Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
And so Cantor, we just sang a Misha Berach for healing. And now it is time to say a Misha Berach for those who are celebrating. Misha Berach just means may the one who blesses. And so there are all different kinds of blessings that we can say as a Misha Berach. So Cantor, what are we celebrating?
November birthdays.
November birthdays. And you, I understand, have real reason to celebrate November birthdays.
I don't have a November birthday, but I have a November birthday, which is today, a year ago today, actually. It was a little traumatic, but we got this guy out of it. So Emmett is celebrating his first birthday today. He's probably going down for night-night Lila Tov, but he had a great day. And if you know where I live, you can drive by at 1 o'clock on Sunday and give him a shout-out for his drive-by birthday.
It's a COVID birthday.
It's a COVID birthday.
And so we are celebrating a COVID birthday for all those November babies born. Now, I do want to say that I actually think for birthdays, that everyone celebrating a birthday should call and thank their mother if they are still able to, because really, without them, there would be no birthday.
Correct.
So thank you. I'm sure Emmett would say to you for giving birth a year ago today.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that you'll put names into our chat so that we can figure out who out there is celebrating a birthday in November. Normally, you would be all up here, and Rabbi A would ask you some question about what have you learned in X number of years if you felt like you wanted to share that number with the community. So if you can, maybe even put in the number if you feel good about it, and maybe even a piece of wisdom that you have learned in your X number of years.
Yeah, and I know that some of you had put your birthdays in right when services started, so I have to tell you, I can't scroll up that far. So I know Faye was one of them. I saw Glory was one of them, but I don't have all of them. So just put it in again with your birthday, and that way we can give you a proper shout out.
There's got to be, theoretically, 1 in 12, right, of the people who are watching tonight should be celebrating a birthday.
That's true. That's true.
So,
All right, so we'll see. So I said a couple of them. Let's see if we have any.
Faye and Glory, yes.
Let's see who else is on here.
Anybody else
Take
willing
both
to
I can-
admit they're having a birthday? Wait, Cantor, turn around.
Oh,
Ricky!
what's your birthday?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's coming
next
right up next
week.
week. Do you have any words of wisdom that you've learned in your X number of years here on earth, Ricky?
Oh my goodness.
I think that's what Rabbi would ask you.
That while the world is complex and people are complex, be understanding to the difficulties.
So Ricky didn't have a microphone, but what he said, while the world is complex and people are complex, try to be understanding. Thank you for sharing that. That is excellent. Would you like to give the sermon tonight, Ricky? Okay. Excellent sermon.
All right, and we have Maria Fink, was one of my friends in Redondo Beach. She turned 70 today. And Ann Brandt, her birthday was on November 11th, a couple of days ago.
Her
All
birthday
right.
was on Veterans Day. We should say
Yeah.
thank you to all the veterans as well.
And then Lori Frankel put in the chat, happy birthday to Jackie Chenin and Deborah Cohen.
Nice.
Anyone else? Last chance. We'll still say a blessing for you. You just won't hear your name if you miss the chat right now. But we're saying blessings for all the November birthdays.
And so we say, may the one who bless all of our all of our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, all the matriarchs, the patriarchs. May God bless you as well as you celebrate a new year of life, a new year of hopeful, good, positive beginnings, we should all say for all of us, and may all of your dreams come true.
Hold on, Faye has a word of wisdom, so I'm going to just put her on the screen over here.
Oh, Faye has a word of wisdom coming. Okay. Here comes Faye. This is the most fun that we have here.
I know. She just happened to be on the bima. So Faye said, love one another, and she turns 89 this month.
Oh, beautiful.
So we love you, Faye. Very nice.
Love one another right now. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so we need to sing a little Simon Tov and Mazel Tov, right?
All right, here we go.
So for all of the November birthdays.
Simon Tov,
Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov, Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov, Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov, Yehelanu, 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 Ulepo Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecho Yisrael.
And my grandfather of blessed memory would have been 89 today as well. So he and Emmett share a birthday.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, we are going to continue now with a little bit of teaching. And so I am going to now take my mask off. Cantor and I are trying very hard.
Musical masks.
Musical masks tonight. And so I get to say, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So I'd like to start tonight by sharing a couple of stories. Let's see here. Cantor's very helpful. Thank you, Cantor. I'm still going to start with a couple of stories. There was a man named Alan Naaman. He died at age 63. He was a modest man, remembered by his Washington State co-workers, you see, he was a social worker, as being very frugal, never spending very much money on himself. And then there was a man named Ronald Reed. He was a janitor for J.C. Penney's who died at the age of 92. He came from what people would call lowly beginnings. He spent little, he worked hard, and he was the first in his family to graduate from high school. And then there was Sylvia Bloom, the humble legal secretary who worked for the same law firm for 6 decades, riding the subway to work each day, spending very little on herself. So 3 stories. Why would I start with these? You see, Mr. Naaman, that social worker, he ended up leaving almost $8 million to his local library and the local, to charities that helped abandoned, impoverished, sick, and disabled children. And then Mr. Reed, he was the janitor, he left almost $8 million to his local library and the local hospital that he had visited almost every day, not because he was sick, but that's where he had his breakfast, and he made friends there. And then there was Mrs. Bloom. She left more than $9 million to a local social services group, a local college, and a scholarship fund she created. I love these stories. I grew up reading stories by Horatio Alger, the ones that were called luck and pluck stories. Good luck and pluck. See, these were hardworking people who had the good fortune to invest well. They are inspiring, happily working modest jobs, living modest lives, saving and even scrimping, and then giving away millions of dollars at the end of their lives. Yes, these stories are definitely inspiring. But I also think some of these stories are just a little bit sad. I wonder what joy the person might have missed because they were always saving for some future way off in the distance. Now, I think about these folks, along their journeys, were they thinking about their legacy? Were they thinking about the way that they were to be remembered? All of these people were described by the people who knew them, first of all, as frugal, and that they didn't even treat themselves to the most modest of things. During this time of COVID, this time of staying close to home, I've had more than a few conversations with people about the legacy that they might leave behind when it is their time. And candidly, I've been thinking about my own legacy myself. Of course, for some people, their children are their first legacy. The teachings they provide to children and grandchildren and how they act and treat one another. That becomes their greatest legacy. And then for those of us without children of our own, for those maybe who are socially, not just socially distanced, but also emotionally distanced from family, the idea of legacy becomes much more complicated. In this week's Torah portion, Chaye Sarah, which translates to the lives of Sarah, we actually hear first about her death. We learn that she lived to be 127 years old, dying in a place called Kiryat Abba, which is in Hebron, in the land of Canaan. Then we hear these words in Hebrew, Vayavo Avraham lispod l'Sarah v'liv kota. Then Abraham proceeded to mourn for Sarah and to bewail her. In the end of that verse, we hear a word, lispod, for only one of two times that we hear it in the entirety of Torah. The Hebrew root letters, samach, fe, dalet, are usually translated into English as to mourn, someone who has been lost. But those same root letters with different vowels become the Hebrew word hesped, which becomes the idea of giving a eulogy when our loved ones die. The hesped, during the funeral service, one of the most difficult things our loved ones have to do while in that period after loss, but before burial. Honoring them is the most personal gift we can give them as we say goodbye. Seth Godin, an entrepreneur with a philosophy degree who combines business and marketing concepts with asking hard questions regarding the meaning of life, he wants us to consider the following questions. He says, when your great-grandfather arrives by time machine, what will you show him? What have you built? What are you building? And he also asks, when your great-grandchildren remember the choices you made, at a moment when we actually had a choice, what will they remember? Thinking about Seth's questions, I keep coming back to two men in my life who shared one name, William Levine. One was my great-grandfather, and the other was a man over whose funeral I presided back when I was a rabbinical student. I think of both of them because they shared the same name. And because they shared the same name, I've thought a lot about both of them ever since. My great-grandfather was William Levine, known to everyone as Willie. He was married to Molly, and Molly and Willie lived in Schenectady, New York, and they retired, like all good Jews of their generation, to Miami Beach, with a small New York State pension by the time I was born. They led a very simple life in retirement, and even though we visited them every single year until I was 12 years old, I'm actually a little embarrassed to admit how little I know about them. I remember that my great-grandmother always gave us as much Hebrew national salami as we wanted when we visited, and that my great-grandfather liked salami and eggs. And like many couples, he was the quiet one, letting my great-grandmother Molly do most of the talking. He was the father of two daughters, one of whom became my grandmother, who also had two girls. One of them became my mom. But I don't really remember much else, other than I loved chasing the little lizards when I visited them in Miami, and that we must have sat and talked about something during our visits, although I don't remember exactly what. What I do remember is that when they died, my family did not attend their funerals. And I'm still not sure to this day why, and I still regret it to this day. Now, the other William Levine, sadly, I actually remember much better than my own great-grandfather, probably because I sort of met him when I was called to do his funeral as an unaffiliated Jew. I'll never forget what I learned about him, again, because he had the same name as my great-grandfather. I remember this funeral so clearly because when I went to the family's home to learn about their father's life, they literally had nothing good to say about him. Nothing. Not a single good word. Not one. Imagine trying to write a respectful hesped, a respectful eulogy, when the kids and grandkids could only talk about how self-absorbed and hateful and angry he was to everyone, how he never considered anyone else's feelings, and how they were not going to miss him, how they were only having a Jewish funeral out of a sense of obligation and for no other reason. Imagine living a full, long life, and this was the story the rabbi heard in preparation for your funeral. So there are two very different stories being told about two very different William Levines, two very different legacies. For my Willie, unfortunately, the story I know and tell is short, but it is powerful to me. I know where he lived and what he did for a living. He was a tool maker, but where you live and what you do for a living do not make a life. What did make a life for my great-grandpa Willie was his focus on his family. He raised two good daughters and left behind a family that did love him. And even though I don't remember much of those details now, I always knew that he loved me. I always felt that he loved me. And perhaps even most importantly, I remember people always said he was the kindest man you could ever know. And he showed that by being kind to me. What about that other William Levine? What was his story? What was his legacy? What could I say in his hesped, in his eulogy? His kids refused to talk about why he was the way he was, but after listening to the few stories they were willing to share, I surmised the following. William Levine was a lousy communicator. He was always bound up within himself and his needs, and he never seemed to care about anyone or anything else. From his kids' perspective, he did not take time to be interested in their lives, and when he did, he was not kind. As the rabbi, though, after listening to them tell me his story, their version of his story, I really believe that he too was probably feeling an incredible amount of emotional pain, just like his kids felt. In their stories, I felt so much hatred as we prepared to say goodbye. So many things left unresolved, so many things left unspoken, so many hurt feelings left behind. There's a quote often attributed to Maya Angelou, but was probably really from a man named Carl Buhner. He said, "They may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel." When the second William Levine's story was written, he left behind pain and anger. His life story has haunted me now for many years, thinking about what story I am going to leave behind. In our sacred text, we think now of Sarah's legacy, our matriarch. What really was her story? She did what her husband told her to do. Well, mostly. You see, she laughed when God said she was going to have a baby. If you can imagine not having very much faith in God. And then also in her story, she was just mean to Hagar. And she banished her husband's son, Ishmael. She carried a lot of anger too. I imagine Abraham's hesped, telling her story, is one of their love for each other. But the hesped that the rest of the family might tell might have involved much more anger and pain. So some of you know, I'm a great fan of Hamilton. There are lyrics near the end of this play that says, "Who lives, who dies, who tells your story?" I ask you, what are you writing right now for your family to say in your eulogy? You know, you still have time to help them write it. Shabbat Shalom.
are gifts, and we are blessings. We are history in song. We are hope, and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words, and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. L'tor vador nagid God lecha. L'tor vador, we protect this chain from generation to generation. L'tor vador, these lips will praise your name.
The beginning of our concluding prayers are found on page 586. If you'd like to rise for the Aleinu, we invite you to do so at this time.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot adama, shelo sam chalkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kecho hamonam, va'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We remain standing for Kadisha Tom, the mourner's Kaddish. As we first think about the following individuals, we invite you to write the names of your loved ones into the chat for them to be remembered as well. We first remember those who have died recently, for whom this is the period of Shloshim, or the 30 most recent days following our loved one's passing. We remember Corey Jackson, Joan Webb, Barbara Carroll, Janet Schlesinger, Barry Gordon, Gary Downs, Joan Gardner, Carol Frank, Dolores D. Bale, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, and Roberta Wisnowski. We also take a moment to think about all those who have died in this season in years past, for whom this is the anniversary of their passing or their yahrzeit. We remember Rabbi Sidney Axelrod, Jeanette Beer, Lena Cohen, Meyer Fagan, Ida Friedman, Jerry Gittell, Ian Goldstein, Harry Hirsch, Harold Katz, Sally Kaufman, Bert Collins, Max Collins, Milton Kranitz, Florence Lebensberger, Mark Slevin, Benjamin Matz, Leo Meckler, Shirley Merkel, Nola Milliken, Yaffa Moore, Lance Parnas, Flo Premack, Morris Ratner, Stanley Ray, Stella Ray, Dorothy Rugel, Francis Ross, Alex Ruiz, Mildred Schiffman, Otto Schiller, Fanny Schreiman, Julianne Sklar, Philip Sklar, George Smith, Edwin Weinberg, Paula Weinberg, Mark Weissman, Gita Wizig, and Saul Zimmerman.
Roberta Martinez, Cookie Goldberg, Jack Kramer, Tom Foscaris, Steve Shore, Mel Barron, Gary Downs, 1,893 lost Nevadans to COVID-19.
We take all of these individuals into our hearts as we remember them, saying these words, hallowed by the generations, found on page 598, Kadisha Tom. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach hirute ve'amlich malchute. B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehe shmei rabba mevarach le'alam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal. Shmei dekudesha b'richu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'elma v'imru. Amen. Yehe shalama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and bring comfort to all those who are bereaved, both among us and those who are bereaved all around the world. And together we say, Amen. And so it is time for Kiddush and Motzi, doing our best to be safe with each other. Let me pull out these gloves. I'm going with a twofer today. Twofer. All right, Cantor.
So while we're doing this, I probably need a microphone. While we're doing this, just a couple more little announcements. They're not little, they're very important. I just decided to split them up because we had so many. We will have, membership committee will have Hanukkah masks available coming soon. They were supposed to be available this week for the Sisterhood Hanukkah Bazaar, but along with everything else, canceled. So there will be ways to still purchase your Hanukkah things and make sure you can have a festive holiday. We will make sure of it. Just call the office. So watch out for that. And we'll get a picture up on our website as soon as we can as well. We'll say Kiddush first, and then we'll tell you about your challah tonight, or our challah.
We wish we could share it with you.
We do.
Believe us. We
I think there's
really
going to
do.
be some French toast tomorrow.
And tasty. All right, Cantor.
I mentioned before, if you knew my address, to come by at 1 o'clock on Sunday. Don't come over tomorrow for French toast. It's just mine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen.
L'chaim. Does the rabbi always say, now that's good juice? No.
He doesn't say that anymore.
Not anymore?
Maybe he used to.
Old school, man. Old school.
Okay. So why don't you start with your challah?
Well, we weren't sure if there was going to be a challah today, so I decided to have some fun in my kitchen, and I made a garlic rosemary challah, because I never make savory, and so this was a shehechianu moment for me. It's a little browner than I normally like, but rosemary from my backyard.
Nice.
So there's a little challah.
I made a discovery of honey salt. There's actually a honey truffle salt, but I can't track that one down. But there's a honey salt that would be really good with that challah.
Okay.
So we have two challah queens of Henderson that I know about, and one of them jumped at the chance to make a challah in honor of Emmett's birthday, which I so appreciate. And she's so beautiful. She thanked me for the mitzvah of being able to do it. So I thank her right back. So that is Trisha Starr. And we want to thank the Starr family for sponsoring this beautiful challah, which is in the shape of an E, the letter E, for Emmett.
Yay. It's
So
beautiful.
cool.
So beautiful.
And it has blueberries, which are his favorite food. So very sweet of her to do that.
Literally. Very
Very sweet, very sweet. Okay, and together we say Motzi. Hopefully you have a challah of your own. If not, you should be baking or buying them so you can do this with us. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
B'teavon, everyone. Can I take my mask off for a little bite? Can I have a little bite of that one too?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I knew it was going to be.
Turned out okay, after all. Put it over here. All right, I'm reaching over.
That is a good, it's like a bakery challah. I'll try yours after the service because I have to still sing and my mouth is full of challah.
This is great.
It's a good holla.
What a mitzvah. This is great. All right, we have a closing song.
We want to thank Ricky and Alex for being
yes.
here to make sure that we sound good and uplift our service, especially Ricky and his music. It's been a few weeks since we've been together, and we're so glad that he's back. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we must say tomorrow morning. Yeah, same time. 8:45 is Torah study with Rabbi Olshein, and then I'll be joining at 10 a.m. Is that where we're starting tomorrow? 9:45, 10. Get on at 9:45, and we'll be leading in our Zoom room. So please join us for services and Torah study, and then there is the third hour as well. So lots of learning and Shabbat to enjoy tomorrow morning. And again, virtual religious school. Check your email.
There we go.
All right.
Our closing song is A Prayer for Peace. May the one who makes peace up in the high heavens make peace for all of us and for all Israel, and indeed for all who dwell on this earth. O say shalom.
Oh, say shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, amen. Oh, say shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael.